Everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk about and kind of break down the World Final Championship match between Invictus Gaming and Fnatic. Now, obviously, this will be giving away the results of the final match, so if you didn't watch it last night and you want to watch the rebroadcast or look up the results, I highly suggest you go ahead and do that right now, as this will spoil you otherwise. So go ahead and get off to that, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the breakdown. Now, first and foremost, I did want to congratulate Invictus Gaming on their win. Not only did they secure the Summoners Cup, but they also secured China their first ever championship title, which I think is really, really cool. I think that's really important, and it's always great when you do see a region that has never won before actually win Worlds. I think that's kind of a big deal, and I think it's, at the very least, you can say it's cool that a region that wasn't Korea actually had an opportunity to win, and a region that had never won before. That's actually pretty sweet, and I am very happy for them. I wish my boys Fnatic were able to pull out the victory, but they weren't at the end of the day. In fact, Invictus Gaming were able to just 3-0 sweep Fnatic. I think a big reason for this is Invictus Gaming obviously beat Fnatic across the board, but I think the biggest reason they were able to beat them is just because they had so much better drafts than Fnatic at the end of the day. I think that Fnatic had a very large focus on their particular style of play, especially in game one. You could kind of see it with Caps just immediately going for the Aurelia. You have Bwipo on the carry champion in the Urgot. And so you definitely had Fnatic had the composition they wanted to play in game one. The biggest problem was Invictus Gaming said, go for it, because we are going to pick a composition that is going to completely destroy you, and they ended up doing just that. I think having the big stupid tank up in the top lane in the Shy was a huge deal. I think that made it so much harder for Fnatic to be able to do anything to him. He just kind of builds Thornmail and IBG, and nobody can fight him, and he's this big unbreakable meat wall. And because they banned out the remainder of the champions that Reckless actually plays, he had nothing he could really default to that could help chew through the big health pool that Sion was going to get. Jhin is just not that good into tanks. And now the biggest question I have for Fnatic personally is that you had the option of taking Xayah. I believe Xayah was still on the table in this game, even if they banned out some of the other solid damage over time marksmen. They opted for the Jhin instead when Xayah was up, and would have been much better at chewing through that health bar. But even in general, if you look at the rest of Invictus Gaming's draft, I think Sion was a great choice. I think having Ning on the Camille gave them the sort of early pressure jungler that's just so hard to deal with, and it forces Fnatic to ban Galio, because otherwise you're able to just call in the Galio and he uses the ultimate on the target that Camille has gotten the Hextech ultimatum, and there's nothing you can do. The other thing is Fnatic never were able to ban out the Alistar. I believe Baolan played that in almost every single game, if not every single game, which meant that they always had sort of a secondary tank. They had some more initiation, and Fnatic never had the opportunity to play sort of a safe marksman who had a lot of mobility. They were always playing someone immobile, with the exception of the Ezreal, but that had a bunch of other problems, because Ezreal, again, just not that great of a marksman in the early game, and early game decided so much in this Worlds, but also in this series as well. Fnatic didn't have the opportunity to do anything with the Ezreal pick because it has such a long power trough, building the Tear of the Goddess and just kind of waiting to try and scale up, and by the time that happens, it's too late. Invictus Gaming's macro, especially early on, was just so much better than Fnatic. They were able to secure themselves first blood in almost every single game besides game 3, and it just made it so much harder for Fnatic to actually do anything, because by the time Fnatic are able to find team fights, Invictus is already multiple thousands of gold up on them. I think part of the problem as well is Fnatic's roster was a lot of fairly new players when you really think about it. Caps is still, I think, learning a lot of things. He has been playing for at least a couple of splits, but he's definitely not very consistent. You could certainly see the nerves in game 1, making a lot of really questionable decisions to go in on fights that he didn't have to go in on, and ended up blowing summoner spells or even dying for his trouble, which is just not really what you want to see your supposedly star mid laner doing. Broxah obviously is fairly new to the roster as well. He definitely had some mistakes early on, wasn't able to find some early advantages for Fnatic, and Bwipo obviously started playing in this last split. I think you can kind of see Fnatic were really trying to put a lot onto Bwipo, but I don't know that's who you wanted to put all your eggs in the basket of, because Invictus were very easily able to say, okay, you're going to try and get Bwipo ahead. We're going to make sure that no matter what he is playing, he is always at a disadvantage in the matchup. And Fnatic prioritizing the Urgot above all else, trying to make sure Bwipo's on the carry champion, I think ended up being a big mistake. Now, when Fnatic finally did put in Soaz, I think that was the right call, and I think it would have been very beneficial for Fnatic to pick up a tank for Soaz, playing the Ornn possibly instead of playing the Urgot or the Victor, because Soaz is kind of known as a better tank player at the moment than Bwipo. And unfortunately, Fnatic ended up not really doing that. Instead, they went for, they felt like they had to play the Urgot, which I think was, at the end of the day, a mistake. Because if you have the Ornn, Fnatic is able to play sort of a front-to-back fight style of team composition. They are looking to just scale up into the late game. And it gives Reckless, who was really looking to be the, I guess the carry of the team, it would have given him an opportunity to safely DPS from the backline, especially once Fnatic finally did put him on sort of a more traditional marksman in the form of the Xayah. Instead, Fnatic decided they really needed that Urgot, and I think that was a huge mistake, and one that Invictus Gaming very smartly capitalized on, realizing Fnatic is always going to want to try and play this champion, and we are going to play around that every single time. The other thing is Fnatic, I don't think, respected the Alistar quite enough. They left it up constantly and then prioritized the Urgot instead, which Invictus immediately say, we're taking the Alistar. We're going to be able to use that and just absolutely destroy you with it. So I think Invictus in general had just better draft strategies than Fnatic, and I think it sort of shows the weakness in Fnatic's draft, which is that they are very volatile. They have certain champions that they really like to play, but which are pretty easily countered, I have to feel. They aren't necessarily the best champions for the job, and they tended to go for them anyways because I think the roster just felt more comfortable using them instead of going for something else. So at the end of the day, I think very smartly played by Invictus Gaming, and Invictus Gaming showing that they don't have to necessarily dominate you in the early game. Game 1 especially had a very long laning phase, waited a long time before First Blood actually came through, but going to show that they don't really care. They know they have sort of the advantage overall in the team composition. They can afford to play late, and they don't have to try and fight until they know they are completely far ahead of Fnatic, and there's nothing Fnatic will be able to do to them. So I think definitely very well played by them, sort of realizing the win condition, and also being able to play around the fact that they really liked the Kai'Sa pick. They wanted to keep bringing that out, and they were able to draft a team composition that worked super well with it. So definitely nicely done, and I think you can kind of see their dominance. You have to give them a lot of credit because it's not like they just swept Fnatic. They were able to take down the tournament favorites in KT Rolster in 5 games. They were able to absolutely smash G2 Esports in 3, and then going into this matchup, you would have expected Fnatic, because Fnatic did beat them in the group stage. They defeated Invictus Gaming twice in a row, actually, on the last day of groups, which was kind of a huge deal. It sort of said, wow, Fnatic actually like destroyed this Chinese squad. They should be able to finish this off, and instead Invictus Gaming learned from their mistakes. They learned how to draft around Fnatic. They were able to see what they played and how they did into Cloud9, and they were able to sort of adapt to that. In that sort of regard, I almost feel like Cloud9 might have been a better matchup for Invictus at the end of the day, because I think their draft is a little less volatile than Fnatic's, but credit where credit's due, Invictus Gaming were able to completely outplay them, and I think at the end of the day, sure, Fnatic were the matchup they had to play against, and they were able to do quite well into them. So very nicely done, and again, I really do appreciate the fact that now the LPL finally has a title under their belt. They were able to pick that up, and now that leaves us with only one region that has yet to win a Worlds, one of the big 5 regions that's yet to win a Worlds, and that is unfortunately North America. So we'll see. Obviously, great. It was a great job by Fnatic to even make it this far. And Invictus Gaming is definitely going to be something to watch in the future. They have proven that they're the best Chinese team. They were able to succeed where RNG has failed time and time again. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on these guys in the future, and if they're going to be able to continue making these plays happen. So anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. If you also watch the matchups, go ahead and let me know what your thoughts were down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your opinions, or if you just want to say, hey, congratulations to Invictus Gaming. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. This is a bit of a weird video for me, but I did want something like this last year, and I really did enjoy doing it, so figured I'd go ahead and do it again this year. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will talk to you all later.